Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to welcome you all for coming to this very, very important press conference. All of our participants and all of our speakers here today, thank you so very, very much. I know that times are stressful right now. It's a lot going on, and I realize that we all are busy, but this is very, very important. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming to this press conference today. I want to just start out by saying that, Louisiana United International is a civil, constitutional, human rights organization that we're focusing on, injustice, corruption, any wrongdoing when it comes to people, civil rights and constitutional rights being violated, wrongful discrimination, just a mirage of things that's taking place. But right now, we're here today to hold this press conference, and we want to make it clear to you that, we have got all the evidence in this case that there is no reason why whatsoever that Reverend Victor is being held in jail right now. And what we're saying is that there is no authority. The courts have no authority to hold him. And just think for a moment, if this was you or your loved one. We have sought the court. I have filed on December 17th. I filed a habeas.
Hey, Sydney, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm okay.
Requesting a 72-hour
No, it's
hearing
actually a Zoom.
for the warden to prove why they're holding Pastor Victor, or otherwise release him. And this is why we're here today. I want it to be also clear that we're not here to retry his case in the public at this press conference. We're here to say that according to the law, according to the documents, according to the record, the face, on the face of the record, that they have no right whatsoever to hold Pastor Victor in prison. So with that said, we want the whole world to know that when it comes to a person being held in prison with no charges, the United States Supreme Court, the highest court, have vacated the conviction. Then why are you holding this person? Especially when we have this deadly coronavirus that Pastor Victor is complaining that he has been very, very sick. He have said that all of the symptoms, headaches, he can't keep any food down, he's throwing up, he's having chills, he can't keep his body warm, feverish, and he's sick. So the 72-hour habeas have not yet gotten a response from the courts saying when they're going to hold the hearing. So right now we have to say to the world, all of our, human rights activists, everybody that's out there, we want them to join us, and asking, how can you do this to a person? How can you hold, a person, in prison with no charges, with no conviction? How can you do this? And so what we're saying is that what they're doing is wrong. And we want the courts to answer, and we want the courts to prove and show us the evidence how and why they can hold this man when there is proof that they don't have any charges. So on that note, we're going to go to our lineup, and we want Minister Darren Barkings to just take his time and let the world know in regards to the state of Louisiana when it comes to this type of injustice. Thank you. You have to unmute yourself, Brother Darren.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me now?
Good afternoon. We're in the press conference. Yes, we can. You go right ahead.
Good. As they say, around the world, no justice, no peace. And unfortunately, right now, we can have no peace because Pastor Errol Victor is being unjustly held. It's been a shame from the beginning. This has been a very, very sad case. We're talking about a man who has great character, and his only problem was he was a successful businessman. He was getting ready to open up a supermarket and a host of other businesses, and the white community in St. John Parish felt threatened that he was competing with them. He had a perfect credit score, 850, never been late paying any of his bills. They had a problem with him because he wasn't a person who dismissed kids, but a person who educated his kids. And he wanted his kids to be successful. So all of his kids drove nice cars. All of his kids did great things. He passed on great trades to them. And they really, really was angry with him. And his kid got sick, and his kid died. And as a result, they had a way in. And they said, we're going to put it on him as if he murdered his kid. And that was an absolute lie. He did not hurt his kid. The kid died of natural results. But here's what they did. The day that he was arrested, they arrested him. They seized all of his assets, his house, his cars, all of his businesses. How could you seize someone's property without due process? He never was late paying his bills. He was current. He had a perfect credit score. Not only that, before he was convicted, he had not even been to trial yet, they took his kids and gave all of his kids up for adoption. Come on now. We're talking about America. This doesn't even happen in the Soviet Union. All of his kids was given up for adoption. Not only that, but he was placed in penitentiary, Angola, Louisiana, one of the worst penitentiaries in the world, without having any conviction. When he arrived to the penitentiary, they say, what is he here for? He has not been found and not been convicted. He hasn't even went to trial yet. And they said, we don't know what to do with him. This place is designed for people who have 75 years, who has been sentenced for 75 years to life. Their courts and the judicial system has been unfair to Pastor Errol Victor since the beginning. And now the United States Supreme Court ruled that it vacated his sentence. The Fifth Circuit of Appeal in the state of Louisiana has vacated his sentence. The lower courts have no charges against him. There's been the Louisiana Attorney General or the District Attorney has not brought any charges against him, but he's been held in prison. They refuse to give him a bond, which he don't need a bond because he has no sentence. They don't even want to let him out. The LUI has filed an emergency appeal, a writ of habeas corpus to present his body before the courts to see why they hold him. The courts have not even ruled with this. This is a shame. This is the kind of stuff that happens in the Philippines or happens in China, not in America. In Louisiana, we have one of the most corrupt judicial systems in the world, and we have to challenge this system. We have to do what's necessary to bring about everybody in the world has to be notified that Reverend Errol Victor is innocent. He must be freed. The coronavirus they put him in a place where the virus is rapid. And why do you do that? Because you want this man to die. Because on day one, you took his house, you took his business, y'all raided his bank account. How are you going to take over $500,000 cash out the man's bank account? Where is his money? Why did you take his money? On day one, there was no conviction, there's no judgment. He owed nobody. Give him his freedom, give him his house back, give him his business back, and give him his money, and give him his kids back. I relinquish the rest of my time.
Thank you, Brother Darren. Okay, we're gonna just go down our list, our lineup. The next person on the list is Mr. Robert Taylor. Mr. Robert Taylor is the former NAACP president, during this time, the beginning of there in St. John the Baptist Parish. Mr. Taylor, unmute yourself and come on in.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm listening to Pastor, to the brother minister Boykins, and the story is so sad, and the facts are so clear of the lynching of the vigilante approach that the state of Louisiana, the parish of St. John the Baptist, has taken with this man and his family. It is unconscionable that in this day and age, this is allowed to happen. I don't see how any Black person who is made aware of what took place with Mr. Errol Victor and his family can sleep at night. I live a couple of blocks from Mr. Victor. I grew up in this community with his parents and his siblings and the people here. If they could do this to a man like Errol Victor, the rest of us stand a poor chance in this system. This is a man at 42 years old, got a family of 15, raising 13 boys. Charter school, home training, educated his children himself. Those boys built that $850,000 home that they were living in. His sons built that. They were not in the streets with their pants sagging. They were at home studying in the charter school with their father and mother, training for all of these trades. And a good example of that is that they tore this family apart, scattered the children everywhere. But these boys right today, every last one of them is successful. They got great jobs, great businesses, from electrical contracting, as a result of the upbringing that Mr. Victor provided them with. That speaks to it. So the fact that this man had to go all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States to find justice, and still these people here in Louisiana disregard that. LUI had to, and their attorneys had to threaten the state of the Angola prison system to get them to release this man. The United States Supreme Court exonerated this man. They vacated all these false charges. They railroaded this man with these vigilante trials. None of the trials that they held here in the 40th Judicial District Court were lawful. Mr. Victor defeated them. They could not get a unanimous jury, which is required for a conviction of a felony. we know that the state of Louisiana in its Ku Klux Klan approach to black people 100 years ago stated in the legislature that this 10-2 was so that they could incarcerate black men. For 100 years they've done that. Finally, the people of Louisiana found out about it and threw it out. And still they will not release those men. They will not redress this problem at all. Here we have a man who is proven innocent, and he got him locked up. And I don't find any support coming from the community. What's embarrassing to me is that I am a member of the community here in Reserve and in St. John Parish and in the state of Louisiana, and that there's not an outcry for the injustice that was done to the Victor family. These people, long before they had that hanging jury, destroyed this man's family. They took the two babies, 1-year-old and 3-year-old, and sent them to New York State. That woman has not seen or heard from her babies. They're teenage boys now. This was what, 12 years ago. The rest of the children were scattered over, and the parish of St. John took demolition equipment and went and tore down these people's homes. This man had a home he provided for his children, and the parish of St. John destroyed it. They went and scraped the house off the lot. The house was valued by the bank at $825,000. I mean, it is outrageous, the things that happen there. And please stop me, because I will rant on and on about this.
Mr. Taylor, you're doing an excellent job, and we're going to stop you right there, because you're absolutely right. Louisiana have been known, even though there was a lawsuit lodged against them from a complaint that LUI have made on several occasions about them holding people over their time. And I know that, they're notorious for this type of treatment. But what we're saying is that Louisiana have gotten it wrong with Reverend Earl Victor. They got it wrong, and they're going to have to get it all the way right. We want him immediately released. So on that note, we're going to go to our next lineup. And Mr. Taylor, you just stay right there. We may come back to you if there's any questions. We're going to have a time for Q&A. I would like for you, if you're not speaking, you can either mute your camera, take your camera off the air and just wait and listen. If you're not speaking, take your camera off the air. There's a lot of movement. And we're going to go right to our next speaker, which would be Minister Ashe. Minister Ashe, when you come on, just state your name and your title, and also your state that you're in.
Thank you, Mrs. Chairman Melinda Parker Brown. This is Minister Kujenga Elia Ashe. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I'm the founder of the Economic Rights Movement, and I am an ambassador to the United Nations in New York City for several NGOs, non-governmental organizations. I want to first thank Louisiana United International for giving me the opportunity to speak on this very crucial matter about my brother and pastor, Reverend Earl Victor. I've been in this situation before myself as a political prisoner, and I know some of what he's going through. I want to thank Dr. Z and Belinda once again for doing such a great job putting this press conference together. Number one, this is a national press conference. This is something that's going all over the country, and we're going to spread it all over the world, because this injustice will not and must not go unchecked. We are going to make sure that we get justice for Pastor Victor and for his wife and for his family. As part of the United Nations, I understand that we have a document called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And that Universal Declaration of Human Rights applies to all political prisoners, which Pastor Victor is one. And the state of Louisiana, from the governor on down to the dog catcher, is guilty of violating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights when it comes to Pastor Victor's case. Article 4, no one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Article 5, there shall be no torture or unusual or cruel or unusual punishment. They're in violation of Article number 5. Number 7, there should be equal accommodations under the law and before the law. Number 8, there should be a remedy from a national or international tribunal. And Pastor Victor has a remedy from the Supreme Court. They overturned the 10-2 rigged jury system. They vacated his case, but he's still being held unjustly. This is a violation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights from the United Nations, number 8. Number 9, no one shall be arbitrarily arrested or detained or put in exile when they have not been convicted of a crime. They are in violation of number 9 under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Number 10 calls for a fair trial, which he has had in the Supreme Court, which has vacated his case. Number 11 and number 12, they're also in violation of those articles that deal with his rights when it comes to his property and his funds. We have to take this not only on a national level, but also to an international level. We've got to make the complaint to the people who are on the highest levels of government, including the president-elect and the vice president-elect. We've got to make a complaint against the governor of the state of Louisiana and everybody on down. So I'm praying that we will have the victory. I feel that we will have the victory. And I'm thankful for Sister Belinda Parker Brown, Dr. Z, and all the rest of you brothers and sisters who have come to the knowledge that we must stand together or we'll die apart. I yield the rest of my time, Chairman Brown.
Thank you so much, Minister Ashe. Very well said. Wow. You know, I just want to say that, you know, this is a state of emergency that we're in, people, especially when you hear the minister talk about the tyranny that have been afflicted upon Reverend Earl Victor, and hear Mr. Taylor say and Mr. Minister Balkin say these things, it would be very difficult for us to believe. But I'm here to tell you that this is what this press conference is about. It's the truth. And we want Reverend Earl Victor free. We want him released, people. This is wrong. Louisiana have gotten it wrong. So with that said, we're going to go next to our next speaker. Hold on just 1 minute. I want to make sure that I'm being courteous to everyone. Pastor Pickney, would you come next and state your name and your title and what state you're from? Greetings to you, Pastor Pickney. I'm so happy to have you on here with us.
Well, you know, it's an honor to be here today. I tell you, I'm excited, and I just want to tell you that the work you're doing is just tremendous, and people have to understand how important it is that people stand together. You see,
Take the title and your name and where you're from.
Reverend Edward Pinkney, the president of the Black Autonomy Network Community Organization, and we're in the state of Michigan. And I just think it's just so important that, you know, people understand the power that you have in unity, you know, because I was in Pastor Victor's position, and I was sent to prison myself, and you know, for no reason. I had no evidence, no nothing. They just wanted me to be in prison. That's the only thing they wanted. They didn't care about my family. They didn't care about the community. They didn't care about nobody. Only thing they cared about was sending me to prison. If they could send me to prison, they were more than happy, because that's what it is. But there is a way that we can defeat them. I believe it is no justice, no peace. And I think that that should be our motto all the way down through, because we can't allow them to have an easy ride. You see, as long as they think, see, one of the things that they understand the law. They understand the law well. But the problem is they think we don't understand the law. This is how they get away with stuff like this. They think that they know everything they do, they got support on what they're doing, and they're able to get away with it. Mr. Victor do not deserve to be in prison today. There's not a reason in the world he should be sitting in prison without a bond. But if we don't stand up and fight back and tell them what we can do, that we're here to stay, he's never going to get that thing, because they want to keep him in there. You talking about bulldozing his house down. They bulldoze his house down. Who do that? Who bulldoze someone home just because they're in jail? You talking about $825,000 and the community accept it? They're just as guilty as these people. If you live in a community who let people do stuff like this, they're going to continue. It's Mr. Victor today and you tomorrow. And until the people understand that, it's going to continue just like that. And we must understand to get that man out of prison. That COVID-19 is no joke. This is the real deal. And they can find a way to get you involved in stuff like that. But we have to know that we're doing what we're supposed to do to make things happen and get Mr. Victor out of there. And we can. There's strength in numbers. There's strength in numbers. We need numbers. We need people like, when I was in prison, over 22,000 people wrote me a letter. So that's one of the biggest things that you have to do. The Supreme Court ruled in my favor only because they knew that I was able to take it. Not because they given it to me. You got to be able to take it. If you can't take it, you're not going to get it into society. I don't care who you are or what you do. It don't mean a thing to these people. It don't mean nothing. If they don't think that you can take it, well, we can't take freedom from Mr. Victor. He will not get freedom. He will not get it. You think that he's going to get a bond if they think we can't take it? It's not going to happen. But I look at this as an opportunity for everybody. And I'm excited today to be here. And we got to continue to spread the word. And we got to expose them for who they are. Until we do that, it's going to continue just like this, just this way. But we can do it. And we got to tell them no justice, no peace, and no more racist police. Let's deal with this. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you very much, Pastor Victor. Pastor Pickney, my heart is heavy for Pastor Victor right now because I know that his kids is watching this press conference and family and loved ones and people that really care and love him very much and want him home. They want him released. On that note, we're going to go to our next, Dr. Zena Crenshaw Local. Go right ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Over the next several weeks, LUI's Legal Affairs Committee will be finalizing administrative complaints and investigation requests that allege specific professional conduct rule violations as part of what we anticipate will be compelling evidence of deliberate misconduct with regard to with regard to Reverend Victor. In other words, we're going to go beyond simply describing what happened and saying that it's unethical, that it's illegal, it's criminal. We're going to go beyond that and allege specific rules of ethics were violated. And we're also going to suggest that the criminal violations of his rights that's apparent from the misconduct we're going to identify help prove that in light of all the other circumstantial evidence that in fact there's been crimes committed, there's been deliberate violation of his rights, which are violations of specific criminal law, federal and state criminal law. It's LUI's intent to trigger professional disciplinary proceedings, legislative hearings, and criminal investigations premised on the circumstances of Reverend Victor's prosecution, his conviction, and his ongoing detainment. But what we need everyone to understand What we need the world to understand is that as our previous speakers have indicated or suggested, relevant history going back hundreds of years, we've actually tracked this history for hundreds of years, certain real life experiences over the last 30 or so years, empirical data, and relatively recent social science research give us virtually no reason to believe any of these technical efforts, these filing administrative complaints, requesting investigation. The history give us no real reason to believe that any of those efforts are going to produce a fair and impartial outcome if we don't press the United States of America to fix its broken legal system. In October, a couple of years ago, in October 2008, the UN Human Rights Council determined that the U.S. does not provide its citizens effective avenues of redress for deliberate violations of their rights by agents of U.S. government. Now, you and I, we can have a private dispute and perhaps justice may be done, but if you are alleging that your rights have been deliberately violated under color of law, that some agent of government has conspired with other agents of governments to deliberately railroad you, that's a term that's used, weaponize the legal system against you. The United Nations Human Rights Council has specifically determined that the U.S. is not going to provide you effective avenues of relief. And effective, it doesn't mean chasing the bunny rabbit for years, this shell game, file here, file there, and people don't even live long enough to ever get relief. Now, this ineffective legal system, again, when you're talking about government misconduct, our abuse of government powers is the more technically correct way to say it. That is a violation of America's International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And it leaves every citizen of this country at the mercy of what my colleague Brian Kenter has described as Las Vegas justice. Maybe you'll win, maybe you'll lose, but good luck predicting what your fate is going to be based on looking at the facts or even the well-established law in your case, if you're alleging that there was some type of orchestrated violation of your rights by government. And who gets subjected to that? People who are pursuing economic development, like Reverend Victor, that the larger establishment doesn't like. Government whistleblowers, government critics. We become targeted individuals. And again, the United Nations has determined that in the U.S., there is no effective avenue of redress because it's just basically a shell game and good luck as to whether you prevail. So far, my investigation of Reverend Victor's case suggests it's one of the worst miscarriages of justice I've seen in nearly 40 years as a civil trial lawyer turned human rights defender. But it's merely a symptom of the human rights crisis that's gripping our nation. I'm just about done, but I just can't overemphasize that. It's a symptom. We are in a nation in a human rights crisis. Both the UN Human Rights Council and the separate UN Human Rights Committee are working with LUI and the many other advocates that support Opt-in USA. That's a campaign for judicial oversight in this country, an international human rights campaign. And they have laid out, the United Nations have laid out a process for us as average citizens to directly help fix America's broken legal system. Now all we need, as Minister Ashe suggested, we need a president a U.S. president that's ready and willing to meet us at the table and start the healing process, start the fixing process. That process is going to entail earnest investigations of organized U.S. legal system abuse, such as we seem to have seen in Reverend Victor's case, and with millions of Americans. Millions of Americans are enduring this nightmare, even though Pastor Victor's case seems to be one of the most egregious examples. But let me tell you what has been done in the dark. If we stick together, as Pastor Pickney suggested, as the speakers have indicated, what has been done in the dark will be brought to light, and there will be a lawful reckoning for those people who are abusing government power and violating people's rights deliberately under the color of law, and for the harm that we have suffered at the hands of these evil people. There will be meaningful relief, but for now, please help us keep Reverend Victor alive.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Z. You know, all of our political prisoners are suffering, and Reverend Pickner is none other than a political prisoner. And I can say this because I witnessed the trial. I sat in the trial for over 10 days myself. I saw it with my own eyes. So we're going to go next to Brother Jihad. Brother Jihad, introduce yourself. And
I don't think Brother Jihad has joined us yet.
okay.
So next is Mr. Salimbo. I'm sorry, Mr. Chimarenga, I'm messing up your name.
Silambao. That's okay. Yeah, I'm Chimarenga Silambao. I'm the National Director of Organization for the African People's Socialist Party. And I really want to express appreciation to Louisiana United for allowing us to speak a few minutes about the case of Reverend Victor. I first want to say that from the perspective of the African People's Socialist Party, what this case represents is colonial justice, justice that colonized people don't get. When we put a man in jail clearly for something he didn't do, that happens to colonial subjects in a country that has used its military might to colonize people all over the world. They have colonies internal to the United States, including the African population in this country. And Reverend Victor has become a victim of that colonial system where you have a foreign and alien state power totally in control of the lives of African people on a social, economic, legal basis. It is in every aspect of Black people's lives, colonialism is staring us in the face, from poor education, poor health care, even this colonial virus, this COVID-19 affects African people differently, and we suffer from it at alarming rates because we are colonized in this country. And that is no different with the case of Reverend Victor. He is a victim of colonial justice, of a colonial America. Louisiana is part of America. America is a colonizing country, and all 50 states of America are part of that colonizing country. So from the perspective of the African People's Socialist Party, we're looking at a systemic problem, a problem of a colonizer versus the colonized. And African people are united with the rest of the speakers who call for unity of African people to fight against colonialism. All of us are not defining it the same way, but we believe it's a colonial system that can only, this case and others like it can only be defeated with the defeat and overturning of colonialism itself. So again, I want to express appreciation to Chairwoman Belinda Parker Brown and the LUI for allowing us to speak today. Uhuru, thank you.
Thank you, my brother. We're doing good with time, so I want to go right down next to Sister Empress. Are you on? Open your mic and come in and introduce yourself and your title.
Yes, greetings to everyone. My name is Sister Empress Foley Chionesu, and I am the architect, founder, originator of the original Million Woman March, and also the President General of the Million Woman March Universal Movements. Great discussion, great press conference, Sister Belinda, and greetings again to all of those who have spoken. I'm going to really get right to it because a lot of times we talk about what the problems are and have been, and we do that, consistently, and that's very good. So my role is let's get to the nitty-gritty part of it. Before I do that, I do want to say that many are familiar with, of course, the phrase power concedes to nothing without a demand. Well, I say power concedes to nothing without power. So at some point, we will have to look at, are we ready to form a committee, for lack of a better word, that is a Free the Victors Now action committee? And with that, then establish education, communications, fundraising, law, in terms of people actually committing to do the necessary work that is now required. We know what the issues are. We know that he and his wife are being held and have been held unjustly. But now we have to get to what are the actions. Now, of course, Sister Belinda did indicate, and of course, Sister Crenshaw indicate what some of the legal actions presently are. What's some of the boots on the ground actions? Now, for example, we made it very clear in our position that we wanted to have Reverend Victor and his wife declared political prisoners. That's a kind of language that's just beginning to emerge. However, it's a good thing. And what we've done when Brother Jihad comes on, as we asked him and others to do, is to begin to literally have Mr. Victor and his wife listed as political prisoners. You see, because they have a network that has those listings. And this stuff is generated all over the country, particularly amongst grassroots Black specifically, but others too, that are doing work consistently and have a history of doing so. So that's now happening. Again, on Sunday, we had Brother Mike Africa presenting on, of course, his family, the Move family. I heard people say, well, how can they knock down a house, or how can they do? Well, 1978, they bulldozed the Move house. 1985, they dropped a bomb and then destroyed 64 homes with the fire and the police department telling them, let it burn. So at this stage of the game, family, to say, how can these people do something? Okay, I'm going to move this forward and say, what are we going to do? Because we already know what they're capable of. We have 400 plus years knowing. Again, what's the boots on the ground action? So what my focus point is that, one, we begin to send to these various officials, in other words, just as a formality, that we're declaring the victors political prisoners. That way, when we begin to engage with other entities, be it nationally or internationally, we can do it from a premise that connects the dots to these other areas of law. But we as the people need to say, these are political prisoners, and have that documented and recorded as such, which I'm sure Brother Jihad, when he comes on, will assist in that facilitation. So I'm really saying again, you all are wonderful in having this discussion and having this press conference. Again, hit me up when it's time for action. Thank you.
Absolutely, Sister Empress. It is definitely time for action. It's the state of emergency right now, because we know that Pastor Victor have, said that he's sick. He's sick, and that, he may, recover or may not. We haven't heard from his wife, but we do know that, he do not have a right to be there. They don't have any authority whatsoever to hold him. So you're absolutely right. It is time for action, and this is a state of emergency to make sure that this man stays safe and that he come home and be with his family. On that note, I hope that Brother Jihad is on. If not, we can go to, we have Sister Lisa David. Are you there, Lisa?
I don't, did Attorney Shabazz check in? I don't think so.
Attorney Shabazz, are you there? Okay, if not, then we're gonna go to, we have Mr. Brian Kinder, and no, we have Brother Ralph Pointer. Would you introduce?
Yes, I am here.
Say your name and your title, please.
Ralph Pointer, New Abolitionist Movement, the Lynn Stewart Defense Committee. And I must say to everyone, I concur with what has been said. But if you notice with the news of the new American leadership in Washington, it's business as usual. As you know, with the news, with Mr. Trump and the Trumpeteers, it's business as usual. And if we look at the so-called progressive people, that is the people concerned with social justice in America, it's business as usual. And with business as usual, we will get business as usual. But it has been said on this program that we must form a new group with the center of the problem being Mr. Victor. And I say we already have a group. Forming new groups is business as usual. Louisiana United is a group fighting for social justice in Louisiana, and all of the issues have been presented, and it is very clear that it is the intent of this government, federal and local and state, to kill Mr. Victor. Now, we must do something that is not business as usual. We must organize, not according to religion, as many people do, not according to social class, not according to color, but according to social justice and the main issue that we are focusing on. Now, we know Mr. Victor was very important in building community, the ability of his children to learn and do and act. We must continue his struggle by supporting him and supporting our ability to educate our children. And one of the first things we must educate our children on is defense. We must be willing to defend children or not have them. We must be willing to defend those who work on social justice, or we should not have the benefits of those who work on social justice, as Mr. Victor did in building homes and building a community and taking money, deserved money, from the federal government for these institutions, for these projects that he was doing for his and our community. And the business that we must do differently is to support in all forms, with all of the people we know, Louisiana United, because they are there doing the work. They must have hands supporting them every day. We must report to Sister Belinda Parker Brown with what we are willing to do. And we are next to the position of getting to the prison and asking those in the prison to fight and those on the outside to fight to release Pastor Victor, because death is what they have for him. And if we don't understand that Mr. Victor is us, his is an instant death. Ours is a slow death with COVID, miseducation, poverty, etc. And so we must send our support to Louisiana United with Sister Belinda Parker Brown, where she can go to the government and say, I have millions supporting me and this issue of our community that has been smoldering forever at Angola prison, in Louisiana. Need not say anything else, just Angola prison. That should be a lesson and a long story. Shortened with one word. And we're going to add a word, and we're going to change our action. Not business as usual. We're going to report directly to Sister Belinda Parker Brown and say, put our name down, put our money down, put our actions down when you speak to local, state, and national governments. And it must be for real, not on a piece of paper. Call. Give your organization name. List your support. Say, we support Louisiana United, Belinda Parker Brown, and we will go to war with this country with whatever her demand is. We are a part of her force. We are a part of her institution. We are a part of her organization. And she can speak for us for the freedom of the brothers and sisters in Angola, and starting with Pastor Victor, who's in dire consequences, but his consequences are the same as the consequences for the rest of us. Belinda Parker Brown and Louisiana United, I support you. Use the name of our organization, the names of our people in that organization, with money, with energy, and with personal participation, and go to the governor and the president and the local courts with that weapon in your hand. Thank you so much for being there for this organization, because it is not only an organization for Louisiana United, not only your organization for Pastor Victor, but an organization for all of us oppressed people in America. And we must continue the fight now and abandon business as usual. Thank you, Belinda Parker Brown.
Thank you, Brother Raph. Thank you, my friend. That is very inspirational, but we all know that we are in a dangerous situation with this COVID-19 inside the jails. And that's the reason why the habeas that I filed, I want to let the world know that when I stand before the judge, he is obliged to show cause why he's holding or bring the warden or whoever is responsible for holding Pastor Victor. You know, and it's, you know, what I'm saying is that, you know, when the COVID-19 is not going to wait for us to do a whole lot, because I'm telling you, the prison that they put him in, and then Mr. Taylor spoke to it earlier, had right before they put him in there, it was a breaking news story that this prison was infested with the COVID-19. You know, we have had a guard die out there. A lot of the guys are complaining about all of the symptoms of the COVID-19. You know, we had a young man that was rolled out on a wheelchair because he couldn't even walk. You know, so this is happening right now as we speak. And I'm still waiting on the judge to bring me before the courts for them to show cause. Why are they holding Reverend Earl Victor? To release him immediately. So I'm hoping that Brother Jihad is on, and then after that, no, we're gonna go to Brother, we're gonna go to Mr. Brian Kinder. Brian, are you there? And then wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up with Brother Jihad. If not, we're going to take, after Brian speaks, we're going to take any questions and answers that you may have. I'm sorry, Brian. Go right ahead. Introduce yourself and your title and tell us who you are.
I'm Brian Kincher. I am the president and founder of the Judicial Accountability Movement. I want to start off by saying that at every step of the way, Pastor Victor's constitutional protections could have been avoided at this fiasco if the government had done their jobs. the government has had numerous opportunities to fulfill its constitutional obligations to see that justice was done and to own up to its errors. But it is seemingly more focused on convicting Pastor Victor than fulfilling their duty. Before, during, and after the trials, and I did say trials, the government has been put on numerous notices of potential problems, and yet they continually repeat that. When a public office behaves with such casual disregard for their constitutional obligations and the rights of the accused, it erodes the public's trust in our justice system, and it chips away at the foundational premises of the rule of law. When these transgressions are acknowledged and yet forgiven by the court or condoned by the court, we endorse and invite the repetition. And that's what Pastor Earl Victor's case is about. It's not just about Pastor Earl Victor, it's about the systematic abuse where the government blindly goes after a targeted individual simply for their positioning and their stance that they believe that they were denied justice. And I believe that the facts and the evidence in Pastor Earl Victor's case certainly exemplifies that. I'm going to borrow something here from a judge that was written in another case. He said, I wish I could say that the prosecutor's unprofessionalism here was the exception, that his propensity for shortcuts and indifferences to his ethic and legal responsibilities is an embarrassment to an otherwise diligent and scrupulous corps of attorneys, staff, and prosecutors' office across the nation. Unfortunately, that would not be true. And that's a sorry state of affairs for where we're at in the United States of America. Now, once the government has a sight on you or believes that you have done something, regardless, it is no longer about proving one's innocence. It's about our taking a stance for them to prove the evidence for which they bring forth. And trying to disprove a lie is a misnomer. You know, and in Pastor Earl Victor's case, the prosecution was hell-bent, they were determined, and they put full focus and they assembled an arsenal of individuals to go after Pastor Victor, whereas all of the facts and the evidence clearly shows that this was to suppress his position in taking a stance to defend himself. It is a scary time in the United States of America. And I come out in full support of Miss Melinda Parker Brown with Louisiana United International. I believe, however, with what one of the other speakers had said earlier about the power and the pressure. Change is inevitable, but it will never come without pressure. And I believe with what Dr. Zena Crenshaw has done with going after the ICCPR violations, it is absolutely paramount to us being able to enforce the rule of law to ensure that no one else finds themselves in the same predicament as that of Pastor Earl Victor. And for that, I thank each and every single one of you. And at any time I can be of any assistance, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Wow, thank you, Brian. Thank you. I just don't want to leave anyone out. That brings us to the end of our press conference, except for we're going to open it up for questions, any questions and answers. If you do have something that's hot and burning and you're on, and you were one of our speakers in the lineup and I did not call your name or see you, then you can unmute your phone and introduce yourself, make your announcement. If not, we're going to go right to questions and answers. Dr. Z, are we ready for that?
Yes, if there's no additional comments now from our presenters, we'll have a very accomplished activist out of Mississippi, Mr. Stephen. Wait a minute, what happened to him? Okay, here it is, Mr. Stephen Harris. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Harris.
Unmute yourself, Stephen.
He's unmuted.
Okay.
Stephen?
Okay, what I would like to do while we're waiting on Stephen, is see if there's any questions amongst the panelists that we can start with us first. And then if there's any other questions, you can put them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and come on, introduce yourself. Tell us what state you're coming from, and then we can respond. Thank you.
Sister Belinda?
Yes.
Yes, Sister Empress Chi. Question, because I have to go. I asked earlier, are we ready to formulate a Free the Victors Now committee, action committee, and with that have people to now sign up for either communications, fundraising, legal, education? I mean, I'm sure there's some other committees as well, but those are primary. So my question is there anyone now ready to commit to being involved actively? Again, hopefully he will be freed once these filings, etc., are enacted. Hopefully they will be freed. However, if not, we should be ready for the next steps. So my question again is, who is now prepared to sign up? We have the National Black Human Rights Justice and Self-Determination Institute. So my position comes from that modality. And we've had that for several years now. I have to also say we've been asking for unity for quite a while, so we know that doesn't work. So what does work is to pinpoint action plans. And so that's why I'm now proposing that we establish a committee, an independent committee that consists of education, legal, etc. So the question is, who is now ready to sign up to take an assignment at this time?
Sister Empress, I was hoping that Brother Jihad would come on with the National Jericho Movement and speak to the fact that Reverend Victor and his wife are political prisoners. Also, you're absolutely right. I'm pretty sure that this is an excellent team that we have here. You know, we're not leaving any stones unturned. Although right now we're in a state of emergency for Pastor Victor's safety and his release, because there's no reason why, if something happens and he's succumbed to the this deadly coronavirus, it's going to be a hell.
Yes, I agree. But again, my question, with all of that said, if for whatever reason the response is not what we want, do we have to then wait some more time to formulate something when we're here right now? Meaning, and I know Brother Jihad is coming because, again, we've connected with him. But my point is, what I'm talking about is not relevant or in reference to that. It's in reference to establishing committee of this body right here to do some work. Or be ready to do work.
Absolutely. If anyone want to speak to that, you can feel free to do so.
Yes, I can speak to that, Sister Linda Brown.
Okay, Brother. Okay, go ahead, Minister Ashe.
Yes, I have already given money, and I am willing to continue to do all that I can. I commit now to all aspects of organization. I am willing to try to raise more funds, and I have my brother Yona L on the line from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm sure that with him together, we can begin to formulate some ideas as to how we can handle that. But we would be, I am committed. I will do all that I can do. I do want to also go to the United Nations and have them demand President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala to that Pastor Victor is a
I need to mute their phone.
So Yona L, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but I'm ready right now. Have been giving money. I have called the parish and asked about his health. I've called the warden and where my brother Victor is at. I've continued to organize, so I, Empress Chi, am ready and am doing and will continue to do. Yona L, did you have something? Did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Also, Brother Ralph had raised his hand too, but go right ahead, Brother Al. You can go ahead.
Okay, do I have the floor?
Yeah.
Yes.
You hear me okay? Okay. I completely support everything that Minister Ashe just said. I agree with Empress Chi. We're here today to talk about a situation that has existed for some time. I only just found out about it recently when Minister Ashe mentioned it to me. Action items are very important. We can talk about this, as they say, till the cows come home. Until we're ready to do something, actively get involved, this is going to be just an exercise of utility. As I posted on the chat, I'm personally suing the state of Georgia here. Currently, I'm suing Housing County, but I also have, I will be also suing Douglas County, Cobb County, Cobb County, Fulton County. All of these counties, because of the violations of civil rights, they have been continually perpetuating against our people without any accountability. So my case is active. We're currently running through the federal courts. And the reason I wanted the information is so that I could find out where this case was to see, based on that information, what support I or we could lend to help move that agenda forward. As Mr. Not only am I willing to put my physical person involved, but we're also willing to put some financial resources and some organization efforts behind this to make this a national, international campaign. So I'm here and I'm available. I posted my information here on the chat. Mr. Ashe knows how to reach me, and I'm available to help however I can. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Minister Al. Okay, Brother Ralph, you had your hand up. Go right ahead.
Yes, I have committed the New Abolitionist Movement, the Lynn Stewart Organization, and as a member of Jericho, I do not pretend to speak for Brother Jihad, but as a member of Jericho, we have discussed and pledged our unification with Louisiana United and the principles already established over the years, with the history established against the Angola prison, the history of the Angola prison that has been there for a long time. No more business as usual. When Belinda Parker Brown calls the marching orders, and that is to bring other organizations, to bring yourself, to bring your finances to Louisiana United, I am already in step with that. And we must have the new business, not business as usual. That is to support the struggles that are ongoing, support our political prisoners, and Brother Victor's life is on the line. Our life will be on the line tomorrow. Let us deal with what we have now. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brother Ralph.
Sister Belinda,
We have questions. We have them. Okay.
I'm sorry, I have to go. I just want a quick question. So we have two now that are committed to working on the fundraising. And again, education, of course, you have legal, but more people can sign up for that. And of course, the other one was communications. So now that said, and I'll leave it to Sister Belinda, but again, we need people to commit to something that's going to be organized in such a way that we know this group, this section of us going to be dealing with communications. They make sure that information is circulated widely. This group, this part of us will be doing education. So we have two that have committed to fundraising. My question again is, and I'm going to put my commitment in the chat, I'm committed to communications. Any communications that I get, I know that I'm going to be doing A, B, N, or C. I'll run that by Sister Belinda to coordinate. But I've got to do stuff in an organized manner. I'm sure you all do too. I'm merely suggesting let's do that. I've got to run, but I do have a representative that's on the line, and they will be able to continue from there.
Thank you, Sister Empress. Thank you so very much.
1 minute, Belinda Parker Brown. You are organized. Sister Crenshaw is organized. We are organized. We just have to make it clear where our actions are, and I trust you to give us our marching orders in terms of education, demonstration, history, communication, etc. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Brother Rab. And right now, you know, this is the act of war and tyranny upon the people here in Louisiana. And you're right, we've been boots on the ground for 12 years. And I feel really good about this type of press conference, how it's bringing us to a whole nother level now. And I can't do this by myself. And I think that one of the things that have been made clear, and I think you stated that, Brother Raff, that we're at war. We're at war here in Louisiana. And, you know, we have to, you know, like Sister Empress said, we have to take this thing to another whole level now. Mm-hmm. And we do have a plan. The marching orders have already been laid out. And I'm telling you, these people are literally looking the United States Supreme Court in the face and saying, what are you going to do about it? So what? We're holding this man with no charges. So what? What are you going to do? And that's why we are ready. We are ready. And this press conference is just the launching pad to show them that we're ready. And with that, on that note,
and actually, our marathon was the end of the year, bringing us together, because remember what Pastor Victor is dealing with is a symptom of national problems, symptom of international problems, and we have been formulating, articulating these national issues all year, and been reaching out. We have the working group against COVID-19. We've already, put in place arrangements to meet with the president with regard to these international human rights issues. All that is well in place. The issue is getting everyone to recognize how these national and international issues relate in a very practical way to specific cases. And we do have questions in the Q&A, Ms. Belinda. So when you're ready for me to share them, let me know.
Very well, Dr. Z. And I just want to say this, if it ever been a time for us to come together and unite with Louisiana right now, this is why it's so critical, because Reverend Victor's case have all the evidence. Everything is there. And it took us a while to get everything together, but we have it together. And we are very serious about his release, his wife coming home to be with their families. And we're not going to stop. So I see that we have Stephen back. And before we go to the questions and answers, Stephen, I want to give you the opportunity to speak. Open up your mic and announce yourself and your organization and where you're calling from. Is he still muted, Dr. Z?
No, I'm not sure. And I promoted him where he can appear on screen as a panelist.
Okay, let's go to the questions.
Okay, so we have Brother Dennis Knowles, and he indicated he's inclined to believe, as you all have stated, that in case of Reverend Errol Victor, who had committed no crime whatsoever, that neither the local, county, state Supreme Court nor the United States Supreme Court will release him. What is the timeline for response to the habeas corpus, and exactly what is the initiative of the habeas corpus? I'm not quite sure I understand with regard to what is the initiative of the habeas corpus. Do you want to?
Yeah, it's more the purpose. I think that's what he said.
Okay, purpose. Okay.
You can speak to that, Dr. Z.
Okay, as Ms. Belinda had indicated earlier, by going into court, Ms. Belinda is saying that we allege, and if you can find the petition online, that there is no authority for detaining Pastor Victor in the St. Charles Parish Jail. And so now we've asked that the warden of that jail come forth to establish otherwise or release him. And there's supposed to be a hearing within 72 hours. However, as I last checked, with the judge had not ruled on the motion. So that's what we're waiting for insofar as the habeas corpus.
Right, and this is what there is a Louisiana statute that is in the Constitution here, that whenever you file a habeas corpus writ to the courts, they have 72 hours to respond to it. And you know, no matter if it's a vacation, holidays, you know, or the only way they could not respond to this is that it has to be an act of war. That's not the case. I filed this on December the 17th, which was last Thursday. Today is Tuesday. I still have not heard from the courts. So again, what we're saying, that this is another blatant disregard. You know, I have called the court on several occasions, you know, speaking with the judge's secretary. They're telling me, you know, making excuses why I have not heard anything. But still and yet, this is the blatant disregard that we get whenever Pastor Victor's name is being passed around in the courts with a red flag on it, that they don't have to respond. They don't have to respond according to their laws. So we're calling the press conference to put pressure on the courts to do the right thing. We can go to another question, Dr. Z.
Yes, and we have someone from the Mahal Party. I don't have them listed among as the speakers, but they were asking when it would get an opportunity to speak. Ms. Empress is saying that the grassroots education infrastructure is not in place, which, you know, I guess we'll just have to talk about that online, because it very much is in place. And the grassroots, the direct action that's being called for, the exercises of democracy, if we have documented it extensively. These are part of the legal system that has proven ineffective. When agents of government combine themselves to violate your rights, history, social science research, and empirical data has established that even this direct action, these exercises of democracy, are not effective. And that is what the United Nations has called out our country, and that's what we've been documenting over the last over the last several years, and putting in place, you know, our response. So it's not a matter of they're just waiting for us to have a protest and then they're going to let Pastor Victor free. We have to understand that we're dealing with a legal system that has geared itself to deny the relief that we're requesting. And the question becomes, what are we going to do about it? Yes, direct action, mobilizing is a big part of it. And there's also other aspects of it, which you know, we have set out through Louisiana United quite extensively. It's just a matter of making people aware of what's going on.
You know, and I want to say that's one of the reasons why that we have powerful organizations on here like Brother Ralph,
right,
Reverend Pickney, you know, people that understand how these things, you know, go together, you know, how they coincide and how they connect together. You know, the Lynn Stewart movement was very powerful. You know, Reverend Pickney's movement was very powerful and significant to his release. So, you know, anybody else want to speak to that? Brother Ralph?
I have a question, if I might, to follow up on one point. It's writ of habeas corpus. If these people are not subject to the law, if they have 72 hours in which to respond, we must have some recourse if they fail that. We just ignore the fact that they ignored us? What else is in the law? That law must specify them, if they are ordered to, according to that rule, to respond in 72 hours, and they don't, we must have a recourse there legally.
Exactly.
Especially with these tragic circumstances that Reverend Victor made superior to the COVID-19. It's,
exactly.
you know, that's what's really is devastating that, you know, why are we still waiting for the 72-hour hearing?
Exactly. Well, and so our phone blitz campaign, I'm not sure if you, Mr. Taylor, if you got those details. You know, our primary goal right now is to keep Pastor Victor alive. The legal process is, you know, there is a myriad of options when a court fails to provide you the relief that you seek. Pastor Victor is 10 years into that process. And so, you know, that speaks to the inadequacy of the current legal process. And one of the things we have to do is we have to marshal public outcry. So, but we have wanted to, yes, we have pulled together. We want to make sure it's clear what it is that we're protesting. We're not just saying this is, you know, that let them out. We are stating our legal basis, and we're identifying why this is not a choice. That keeping him is not only unfair, it's criminal.
Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry. If we're taking the legal steps necessary, if we file this writ of habeas corpus, we're adhering to the law. We're held accountable. Why aren't they? If they fail to respond in 72 hours, we must follow through on that action. That's what we need to free him. That's what the writ of habeas corpus is. And they should be held. That's our methods of trying to get this established. What do we do next? We file a writ. They fail to respond to that. What is our next step here?
Okay, Mr. Taylor, let me speak to that, and then I'm going to go to Brother Ralph. One of the steps that we have already taken, because that was our concern, that when we fought to have him move from Angola, the argument is that, well, where are we going to put him? He was supposed to go to St. John the Baptist Parish. They decided that they didn't want him to come there. All right, so now he's stuck in St. Charles Parish. You know, so what they do is play the game. They're moving him around, and we got this deadly coronavirus out there. So I filed the habeas last week. I have not heard from them. Immediately, you know, Pastor Victor is fighting for his life. This man is fighting for his life for the last 12 years. We just filed, and you can go to the court. The action item is mute your phone, please. The action item, mute your phone if you're just coming on, mute your phone. The action item that we just filed is the complaint for damage, declaration judgment, and for preliminary injunction to stop these people for playing these games with us. And that's another very, very powerful document that Pastor Victor is filing, you know, in his own proper person to, you know, in the federal court. So we're taking these actions. You know? It's not that we're just standing by saying, okay, we're waiting on them to do something. And that's why this press conference is so necessary.
Yes, it becomes complicated because the frustration with a legal system, filing papers and the court doesn't respond in accordance to the rules and the procedure. And then what do? And you just keep filing additional papers. And one of the things that we're trying to make people realize that in the United States, when you have a political prisoner that's being subjected to a system, a legal system that historically has not protected their rights, and yet they find themselves having to go back to that same legal system in order to try to save themselves, even in a life or death situation. You know, in historically repressive countries such as China, their citizens have an alternative to go outside of the U.S. legal system and enforce the human rights treaty pledges that Minister Ashe identified. What we've been sharing with the community for at this point years is that that's what Opt-in USA is about. American citizens do not have that option. Our country has us such that we are isolated. They expect us to keep coming back to the same legal system that violated our rights and asking them to give us relief, and then expecting us to generate a big enough public outcry to put pressure on the system, while in the meantime they're retaliating. They're going after the people who are the leaders of these movements, entangling them with code violations and going after their family.
Victim of that.
So this misconduct didn't become entrenched because it's easy to topple. And the state of affairs that we're in, the situation that we're in, is a violation of the United States international human rights obligation. It shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't take that long. It is not just a matter of not being disorganized or needing to file some more papers. It's more complicated than that.
Right, and that's why we're calling the whole world to this press conference.
Exactly.
That's the reason why we're saying that the United States of America is a disgrace. They have us hog-tied, and they want us to keep on going back and forth, chasing the rabbit, okay? So what we're saying here is with Louisiana United, that the rabbit got the gun. We're not going to tolerate this kind of thing, okay? So, my blood is boiling to the point where I'm saying that the whole world have to come, unite with us, join up with us. Louisiana is first in this curve. We need to meet with the President of the United States. We got to start exposing and healing this process, because this is a very tragic situation with Reverend Victor right now. This man's life is on the line. They purposely put him in this jail-infested hellhole with the coronavirus in there so that he can die. That's the only reason why, because he stands a chance to be vindicated by all of these, grievous and miscarriage of justice and wrongful conviction that they have put up on him and his family. So I can say a whole lot about that, but the truth of the matter is it's going to take all of us. Exactly. And the whole world needs to be standing with us on this, because we can make it all the way to the top. And somebody said they can drop a bomb on us. And that's what we're facing right now.
Yes, and we've been mobilizing for months, and a lot of our online petitions and our position statements are accessible through the LUI website. And so we need everybody on this in this press conference to visit the website and sign those petitions. The organization and the mobilizing has been underway for quite some time. People just need to be more aware of it and responsive.
In fact, Mr. Harris came on, and I know Brother Ralph, I'm not ignoring anybody, but I want to give Mr. Harris the opportunity to speak. I'm trying to see how we're doing on time too as well, Dr. Z. Go ahead.
Well, we'll pass our time frame, so perhaps we'll give it another 15 minutes.
Okay, great. Awesome. Go ahead, Mr. Harris. Are you there? Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
Introduce yourself. Tell us your title and what state you're calling from.
Yeah, I'm calling from the state of Mississippi. I'm the executive director of Second Chance Initiative, which is an organization that entails advocacy, legal assistance, and putting boots on the ground, and pretty much collectively standing in solidarity with many organizations from the state of Mississippi, all over the country. I just want to let you all know that I'm thankful, and it's an honor to be a part of this organization, and the impact that you all are trying to get established. I just want to make a declaration that I've been following the story regarding Pastor Victor, and his circumstance and situation is very disturbing. Knowing that the state of Louisiana acts as if they have the power, or per se they have usurped power and authority over over the people. When in fact that, you know, they wouldn't even be in position, you know, if it wasn't for the people. You know, they wouldn't be able to operate and you know, and try to instill laws and implement, you know, different things to put things in perspective. But if it wasn't for the people, they wouldn't even have a position. So in regards to what Pastor Victor is going through, it's an injustice, very egregious. And I stand with you all 100%. I think that, you know, from a strategic standpoint, because I heard mentioned that a habeas corpus had got executed, or habeas corpus is in the process of being filed. And just from my legal you know, perspective, you know, I would suggest, you know, if I was in the seat of the person that was actually launching that type of documentation to execute, you know, some type of solution for his freedom, then I would also make a suggestion under 42 U.S.C. 1983, which is a federal vehicle. I believe that that, you know, a federal mandate, a federal lawsuit need to be executed against the entire state of Louisiana. Now, you know, now mind you, we know that district attorneys and attorney generals and judges, we know that they have immunity. But under the circumstances of what Pastor Victor is going through, which I would call a miscarriage of justice, then I believe that immunity that the state of Louisiana have need to be tested.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the meantime, if you all can keep those phones calling into the St. Parish jail, so that they can keep realizing that we're watching this situation, and we want them to, because we got to keep Pastor Victor alive as we pursue all these legal options.
Absolutely, because we know that they're weaponizing us with the system to beat us into submission, so that we don't take any action. So on that note, Brother Ralph, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Finally, as Lynn Stewart has taught us, the law is whatever they say it is at any given time. And we know historically the law and the codes in Louisiana is to keep us in slavery. We must go beyond the law, and beginning with supporting Louisiana United, so that when Sister Belinda Parker Brown goes before authorities, she has the strength of all of the organizations that say they support liberty. We have to go to those Black folk who voted for Biden. What are the Democrats going to do for that vote? Or are we going to continue business as usual, giving our political support without political remuneration?
Yeah.
Our main political prisoner in Louisiana is Pastor Victor. What are they going to do about that? And we must promise them that we will make sure that they never receive the Black vote again. And we must go beyond that. Sister Belinda Parker Brown, I say to you, call an action. Let's discuss it, call an action, and we must be there. Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
All right, you know, Brother Stevens, you know, I mean, Brother Harris, I know that you have been a victim of this type of treatment, and you know that, you know, there is a strong possibility that Pastor Victor could succumb to this deadly COVID-19, and you know how they have already stripped him and beat him down to, you know, he's still standing strong. And that's the reason why, you know, I really appreciate, I know if anybody know Mississippi know, you know, you are next door neighbor, that Louisiana was #1 in this type of corruption. Mississippi was #2. So, you know, we are in solidarity with every single person that came to this press conference today. I know that our time is running short. We have one more question. I was hoping that Brother Jihad, from the Jericho movement, can grace us with his presence and just basically assure us that all political prisoners have to be free. And with Pastor Victor and his wife name on that list, that they are none other than political prisoners, but we're in a very critical, tragic circumstance with Pastor Victor being sick inside of this hellhole St. Charles Parish Jail right now as we speak. Thank you. We have a couple more questions and in about 5 more minutes. Is it anyone else?
Just 1 second. Okay. J.L. Lazou had talked in terms of making a presentation with regard to the politics. I suggested that we coordinate another opportunity for that, or do you want him to try to go into that now?
We got 5 minutes, Dr. Z. We can give him that opportunity to go ahead.
Okay.
We don't have to leave anybody out.
Go ahead and unmute yourself, Mr. Lazou.
He can take 2 or 3 minutes and then we can wrap it up.
I'm going to promote you to a panelist so we can see you on the screen. Go ahead.
JL, are you there?
Yeah, there he is. You just need to unmute yourself.
Better?
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Wow, it's a lot. You guys have a lot going on there, and man, this is great that you have all that support. Anyway, I did want to mention that my name is JL Lazou with the Mahali Party. It's a brand new political party. And by the way, we're coming to your state, to Louisiana.
Woo! All right.
We're coming to Louisiana, so we're going to have
everybody to come.
Yeah, we're having our own political party. It's established January of this year, registered with the Federal Elections Commission. And we're running candidates in Louisiana and also Mississippi. And this is great to hear what you're doing, because we can be a force with y'all to not just expose and remove, but we got to replace those corrupt politicians, the people, the elected officials. And our candidates can be that choice for you, because our platform is to bring justice to our people. Our people have been going through a lot of activities throughout this country, and there hasn't been any solution. The Democratic Party has been a major culprit of these problems. And we continue to vote for them. They're elected officials that have, like, take, for example, the Black Caucus. They really haven't done anything for us in 55 years. And when you look at the 1964 laws of Voting Rights Act and 65 for the rights for us to have a right in this country, those laws weren't even created by politicians. Even though President LBJ signed those acts, he didn't initiate them. Neither did anyone in Congress initiate them. It came from one man who was not even a politician, Martin Luther King, because of his protests, of his continued giving pressure to the government to make these changes by our people supporting him, is how we got these acts today. And those are the most important acts that we have for our people in the 1960s. And here we are over 50 years later, and there hasn't been any legislation that even equals those 2 acts. So it's time to have our own party, because to get things done for ourselves, we have to do it. Just like you're organizing these other people, these other organizations, which is marvelous to hear. Having a political component is critical, because those judges, they have a term on those seats. Guess what? We can replace those judges permanently, okay? And not only that, but we can also start this process as early as 2021. There's an election coming up in 2021 in Louisiana. We'll be there. We can start our campaigning with our candidates, and guess what's going to be on the discussion talking points? Elder, doctor, pastor, Victor can be on that platform.
Wow.
So people all over Louisiana can hear about him, hear about his message, and get them on board politically so they can vote these scoundrels. Because basically these people are a bunch of criminals who are actually executing the laws of the state, and they're the criminals. They believe that the laws are for the citizens and not for them. Well, we got news for them. The Mahali Party is coming your way.
Woo! All right. All right. Super.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Z, why don't you go ahead and take us out on that note, because he is absolutely right. We're going for the real criminals, and that's what we're facing right here in the case of Reverend Earl Victor, that these people have broke every law in the book to hold him hostage. And we're saying that we want him free.
Yes.
And no one is free until we all are free.
Exactly. And we made clear that we're dealing with not only the particulars of an individual case, but systemic problems, failures of the legal system to do what it's supposed to do. And we're working with a lot of groups, and they're contemplating a day of action on Martin Luther King's Day in January. So we're an active part of that. So we're going to be following up real soon, and we'll see, we'll see good progress during the first quarter of this upcoming year. But now we really need people to help us keep Pastor Victor in the forefront of the minds of the people at the St. Charles Parish Jail. So we need you to keep calling and inquiring about his health, letting people know where you're calling from, and that we're watching. We're not going to just sit back and let them do COVID-19, weaponize COVID-19 against Pastor Victor, just like the legal system was weaponized against him. So now, if there's nothing else, Ms. Belinda, I'll close out the meeting.
I'd like to close with prayer.
Yeah.
Zena, Dr. Linda Park. We didn't open with prayer, but I'd like to have a universal prayer for Dr. Victor and for all of us on the committee.
Okay, before you do that real quick, Minister Ashe, I want to say, when you call the jail, please state, the state that you're calling from. Just say, hello, I'm calling from Michigan, or hello, I'm calling from Ohio or California. State the state that you're calling from, because these people need to know that there are some big eyes on them, and that if anything happens to Pastor Victor, somebody is going to have hell to pay. Okay? So we want to keep him safe, and we want him released. So on that note, you can go ahead and close us in prayer.
If all minds are clear, to our Heavenly Father, our Heavenly Mother, to the great universal, the Most High God, we pray for the victory. We claim the victory. We speak it out of our mouths that we shall have victory in this case with Pastor Victor and his wife, that Louisiana International will have victory, that Sister Belinda Brown, Sister Parker Brown, Dr. Zena, and all the members of the committee will have power over the evil that has been upon us. We claim the victory right now. We claim the victory right now in all of the beautiful names of the creator and sustainer of the universe. We claim the victory right now. This is our prayer. Hotep, amen, shalom, bisha, assalamu alaikum. Thank you, my family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, so very, very much for coming to this press conference. We cannot do it without you all, so keep us in your prayers, and be sure to keep Reverend Earl Victor, his wife, and his family up in prayer. And hopefully we're looking for a celebration when he come home to be with his family. Thank you.